Hands up!
Good morning. I request the deans to please come onto the stage. The chief guest to hoist the flag.
Cut! Cut, yes, slut! Slut!
जनगण मन अधिनायक भाग्य विधाता पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्चल जलधि तरंगा तव शुभ नामे जागे तव शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तव जय गाथा जन गण मंगल दायक जय हे भारत भाग्य विधाता जय हे जय हे जय हे जय 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 हे
भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय! भारत माता की जय!
The Ambassador of Indonesia to India, Mr. Siddhartho Reja Surya Dipiro, wife of Indonesian Ambassador, Mrs. Devi Ratna Surya Dipiro, Vice Chancellor, Deans and JGU faculty members, heads of administrative departments and JGU staff, Israeli students who are on an immersion program, all JGU students, security personnel, Sodexo workers, and last but not least, family members of JGU staff and children, I wish to extend a warm welcome to distinguished chief guests and all of you to the 72nd Independence Day celebrations of India. As you know, Honorable Chancellor Mr. Naveen Jindal fought 2 cases in the Supreme Court of India on the right to fly Indian flag by private citizens. The huge flag at our campus, fluttering on top of one of the highest poles in India, occupies a pride of place in our hearts and is a constant source of inspiration. Today is a day of celebration, rededication to our cherished values, which include, among others, freedom, commitment to excellence, institution building, and diversity. With these words, I now request Dean of the School of Government and Public Policy, Professor Sudarshan, to explain the significance of Independence Day celebrations.
Happy Independence Day to all of you. This has become my pleasant duty every year to talk about 15th of August 1947 when India became independent. Of course, this is a day when we remember the vast sacrifices that people in the nationalist movement fighting for the freedom of India have made, such that on the 72nd Independence Day we can proudly hoist the national flag. It was once said that the British Empire was one where the sun never set, and someone remarked in 1911 when the decision was made to move the capital from Kolkata, as it was then known, to Delhi, that the British Empire would last 400 years. It didn't last till 1947 from 1911. And that is because of valiant efforts to mobilize the people in a very non-violent movement, and never in the history of the world has such a massive population mobilized for the sake of freedom. So we must, on this day, remember all those who made sacrifices for us to have this freedom. Now, on the 15th of August itself, on the night of the 14th, the Constituent Assembly of India convened in Parliament House, and on the stroke of midnight, India became independent at the break of the 15th of August. The Constituent Assembly then was headed by its president, Rajendra Prasad, who proclaimed India's independence and requested that a resolution be moved that the then Viceroy of India, Lord Mountbatten, be appointed the first Governor General of independent India. And that happened on the morning at 8 a.m. in what is now Rashtrapati Bhavan. There was a swearing-in ceremony where the Chief Justice of the Federal Court, as it was then called, Harilal Khania, administered the oath of office to the new Governor General, Lord Mountbatten, and to the cabinet headed by Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. The first time the national flag was hoisted was that evening at 6 p.m. in Princes Park on the 15th of August 1947. So it was not at the Red Fort. The first flag hoisting of independent India took place in Princes Park, an open-air area where the flag was hoisted. And the next day, on the 16th at 8 a.m., Prime Minister Nehru came to the Red Fort. And the flag then was hoisted over Kashmir Gate. Now it's hoisted at Lahore Gate of the Red Fort. But the first one was on Kashmir Gate. And the reason the Red Fort was chosen is because of the historical significance of Lal Killa. This fort was built by the Emperor Shah Jahan, and it was known as Qilai Shahjahanabad, which is the city of Shah Jahan. But in 1857, there was a mutiny, or the first war of independence, as some historians call it. And the people from different parts of India, North India mostly, converged and appealed to the ailing old emperor to be their nominal leader and proclaimed independence. This happened inside the fort. And in September 1987, the British were able to mobilize their forces and defeat the rebels in the Red Fort and took over the Red Fort. And after that, the Red Fort witnessed one of the most sacrilegious destruction of property and buildings at that time. And this remains a blot in history, that beautiful buildings inside the Red Fort were demolished and the British Empire asserted its authority. Later on, when the World War ended in 1945, people who had formed the Indian National Army under the leadership of Subhash Chandra Bose, 3 of their generals were tried in the Red Fort. They were imprisoned in the well of the Red Fort, and they were tried inside the Red Fort. And it was one of those few occasions when Jawaharlal Nehru, who later was the Prime Minister, appeared as the lawyer in defense of these 3 persons. And it's significant that in the first speech that Jawaharlal Nehru made at the Red Fort, he said he wished that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose would be beside him on that day. So the fort has a significance for that reason. But I also have to mention before I close that it's a very special Independence Day for us today because we have the Ambassador of Indonesia with us. We must remember that in 1947, Prime Minister Nehru organized an Asia Relations Conference. And at that time, Indonesia had declared its independence on the 17th of August in 1945. But after the Japanese had surrendered, and incidentally, one of the reasons 15th of August was picked by Mountbatten to hand over, relinquish the authority of the British Raj, was because on the 15th of August in 1945, the Japanese surrendered to him and concluded what is known as the Second World War. So this Asian Relations Conference happened in India, and Nehru was very keen that it should be represented by the leaders of independent Indonesia. See, by that time, the Dutch had been slowly moving back, and it wasn't until 1949 they formally relinquished their claims of being the sovereign power in Indonesia. But in 1947, Biju Patnaik, who had an airline called Kalinga and a Dakota plane, flew out Prime Minister Sherrier at that time to join the Asia Relations Conference. Later, in 1949, again, when President Sukarno hoisted the Merah Putih, the red and white flag of Indonesia in Yogyakarta, he decided, as a tribute to his friendship with Nehru and with India, to also hoist the Indian national flag at that time. Now, the Indian national flag formally became a national flag only after 26th of January, Republic Day. Nonetheless, the flag was hoisted, and I have to say one quick word about the flag. It's very symbolic. Initially, there are various versions of the flag, but one assumption was that the saffron represented the Hindu population of this country and the green, the Muslim population of this country. And that remains, in fact, one of the reasons why the 2 colors came into prominence. But later, when the flag was finally adopted in the Constituent Assembly as our flag, the saffron was hailed as marking renunciation and disinterestedness, which are virtues or values that leaders should have, not make material claims out of public office. The white represents light and the path to truth. And the green represents fertility and the soil and whatever nurtures life on earth. And the wheel in the middle, the Dharmachakra of Emperor Ashoka, suggests change, dynamism, a new country moving forward, not static, forever changing, and changing as the wheel of Dharma, which means righteousness. So those who govern under this flag are bound by that code of honor that the flag represents. And it's also important to note on this occasion that we are grateful to our Chancellor for having secured for all citizens the right to fly this flag, because the previous flag code was designed to protect the Union Jack from possible misuse by an angry public. But for our own flag, we will fly it with pride, as we've now just done. Thank you.
I now request our Vice Chancellor, Professor Rajkumar, to give his address.
A very good morning to all of you. Happy Independence Day. It is indeed my proud privilege to, really join us in this wonderful occasion, which we have done every year to celebrate our Independence Day. In this joyous moment, I would like to extend a warm welcome to our distinguished chief guest, His Excellency Mr. Sidarto Reza Suryo Dipiro, the Ambassador of Indonesia to India, as well as his wife, Mrs. Suryo Dipiro, as well as all the faculty members, students, staff of OP Jindal Global University. I also want to recognize the presence of many distinguished individuals representing various institutions from around the world, including from our international partners, universities from across the different parts of the world. In particular, the students who have come from Israel, from Shalom College, who are participating in an international program here at our university. I also want to take a moment to recognize the presence of the various construction workers who are here helping us in building this university, the gardeners, the cleaners, the office attendants, and all those who are working behind the scenes to make this university and this experience of our students living and studying in our campus more meaningful and hopefully more inspiring. Since Professor Sudarshan has already given a comprehensive tour de force on the historical importance of this occasion, I will make a few remarks which mostly connects to the importance of what freedom means and how it connects to the larger sense of responsibility that we need to undertake. As a university, for us, freedom means many things, but the most important foundations of this freedom is our ability to take responsibility. With all freedom comes responsibility. 72 years ago, when we obtained this freedom, we were a very nascent nation. The constitutional framework and the idealistic notions that led to the creation of this new republic were at its very formative stage. We were barely building our institutions and developing practices, including customs, that can help us evolve the aspirations of that young republic. Today, with over 70 years of our past, with us, we have a lot that we have learned, but we have miles to go before we fully acquire the freedom that led to the creation of this republic. For the acquisition of that freedom, universities, I believe, play a very significant role. In fact, it is in universities that some of the most fundamental and foundational thoughts of the nature of the republic and the ability to perfect the ideals of our democracy need to be debated and discussed and even at times disagreed. In fact, universities are the foundations of this republic and we need to recognize that. With nearly 1,000 universities in India, with over 40,000 colleges which are educating a large number of young people in India, and of course we have indeed a large number of young people. Over 850 million people in this country are less than 35 years of age. And India's life expectancy having increased to approximately 75 years, we are looking at these young people in this campus, but also in campuses across this country, not only shaping the future of India, but also the future of the world. So, what I would hope to see as we celebrate the 72nd Independence Day is to think about a future in which we can all live together, we can accept the differences that prevail among us, but also recognize that the norms of that acceptance of differences will be democratic in nature. We should disapprove of any form of violence that is meted against individuals on account of religion or caste or other forms of discrimination that at times gets deeply embedded in our societies, and to that extent our universities need to be the guardians of our democracy. Democracy is a way of life in India. It is also a celebration of diversity, the different thought processes that continue to bind us together as a society. And so for us to be able to perfect this democracy, we need all kinds of thought processes to be participative in this democracy, in this evolution of our democracy. And I can only hope that the students and the faculty members of OP Jindal Global University, with that sense of responsibility deeply embedded in the knowledge that you receive and to be conscious of the privileges that come with this knowledge that you receive here, and to be part of an exercise in evolving a sense of enlightened democratic evolution. To be also conscious of the fact that you are global citizens, and with that recognition, we need to participate in issues that affect people from any part of the world, and to recognize that we are all in this together. And so, with the kind of education that we are receiving here, we also need to recognize that there are people who may not be able to be as privileged as you are and as we are. With privilege comes responsibility, just as with freedom comes responsibility. So, as we celebrate the 72nd Independence Day, I would like to beseech to all of you that this university ought to be creating responsibilities among all of us. If all of us are able to undertake that responsibility to the fullest extent we can, then we will be able to achieve the fullest freedom that we aspire to. I also want to take this occasion to recognize the contribution of our founding benefactor and chancellor, Mr. Naveen Jindal. Not only he fought the flag case and helped us in many ways fulfill the right to fly the national flag, but also because of his farsightedness established this university as a tribute to his father, and also committed himself to the values of academic freedom, autonomy, independence that are deeply embedded in our institutional imagination. As we look at the future, we will continue to draw inspiration from his contribution, but also the contribution of our outstanding faculty members, and indeed the students, who the presence of all of you on this special occasion when we celebrate the 72nd Independence Day. Thank you very much.
Before I call upon our chief guest to deliver his address, I'd like to give a brief introduction. His Excellency Mr. Siddhartha Suryodipuro presented his credentials to the President of India, the Honorable Mr. Ramnath Kovind, on 23rd August 2017. Prior to that, he served as the Deputy Chief of Mission at the Embassy of Indonesia in Washington, D.C. between 2014 and 2017. In his long diplomatic career, he held many important assignments. He studied international relations at Universitas Parahyangan in Bandung in 1991, and US-China relations at the Naval Postgraduate School in Monterrey with distinction in 2003. He was awarded the Fulbright Scholarship in 2002. Now, His Excellency, Ambassador of Indonesia to India. Thank you. Please come.
Good morning. Happy Independence Day. Happy Independence Day, India. Happy Independence Day to all my Indian friends. Thank you for having me and my wife, Devi Ratna, in this beautiful campus. Congratulations, Jindal University, for leading the effort in having private citizens raise the flag. It's something that I can tell you that in Indonesia, raising the flag is considered very important. If India celebrates Independence Day on August 15, we celebrate Independence Day on August 17. Now, 72 years, it's a number that we have to celebrate. But we celebrate not only the numbers, but also the changes, the progress that has taken place. I congratulate India that has come a long way since its independence. It is now leading in many sectors among the world community. It is reaching out to space. Its citizens in many countries are contributing in meaningful ways nationally as well as internationally. We are also celebrating 70 years of India-Indonesia diplomatic relations. In 1946, when hunger had struck, we established a cooperation. We exchange rice with pharmaceuticals, electric goods, and other items between the two countries. Remember, these were countries, one was not independent, one was struggling for its independence. In Indonesia's struggle, and Professor Sudarshan mentioned about it, India was one of the main supporters of Indonesia's independence. And until today, we are grateful for that support. It was the leading nation before and after independence in supporting Indonesia's struggle for independence. We did finally receive international recognition in 1949. So 4 years, when we declared independence in August 1945 until we received recognition internationally in 1949, India was the leading nation supporting Indonesia's independence. And exactly 72 years ago, at the Asia Relations Conference in New Delhi, to be precise, in Puranakila, the Prime Minister of Indonesia at that time, he was helped by Prime Minister Nehru, he was helped by Biju Patnaik, who piloted the DC-3 that flew Prime Minister Sultan Syahrir to New Delhi. And let me just mention, Biju Patnaik is a hero not only in India, but also recognized as a hero in Indonesia. So in 1947, Prime Minister Sultan Syahrir made a statement. And I think the words he uttered 72 years ago are still very relevant in today's world, very relevant for India and Indonesia today in a world that is rapidly and vastly changing. Let me quote those words. So Prime Minister Sultan Syahrir, "We are now living in troubled times, in a world which is very much in a state of flux. When changes of far-reaching consequences take place in the relationship between nations, there is bound to rise an atmosphere filled with doubt and difficulties and sometimes tensions too. Yet this is the time for action, for firm, definite action which will have as its objectives the betterment of the world in which we live. But even while we initiate measures or execute plans aimed at improving our country's and common lot, it is incumbent on us to act in such a manner that the consequences of our measures will be palatable to other people and will serve to strengthen the bonds which exist between the various races and nations of the world." 72 years ago, these words were uttered. I believe these words are still relevant today. And I think the words are very relevant also with the vision and mission of this great university. With that, I would like to thank you very much for having me, and thank you very much for your attention.